Star Wars is a franchise that can only be described as depressing. This is a series that was a part of my childhood, and the childhoods of probably, I don't know, like 90% of the world, and we all got to watch it become dog shit in real time. Now hear me out on this. My hatred of modern Star Wars has always reminded me of my extreme hatred for British people. Both of these things had an empire that spanned the entire globe, literally the biggest and best in their respective conquests. And within just a couple of decades, they managed to literally lose it all, becoming these niche pieces of shit that no one likes. You see the parallels here? All you had to do, Disney, was not make shitty movies. Spoke the fucking angry ghost of Walt Disney into existence. Are you here, Spectre? Trying to censor me. That son of a bitch. But every once in a while, I think back to when I was a kid. You know, the glory days of Star Wars. You know, we had the prequel films, we had the Clone Wars animated series, and we even had the Battlefront games, which were my introduction to FPS. When I say that this was a huge part of my childhood, I am not joking. The sounds of those loading screen maps, that's ingrained up here forever. But the other major Star Wars game of this era was one that I could never really put my finger on. The classic Star Wars, The Force Unleashed. A game that I remember fondly, but only as vague memories. When I first decided to play this game, I thought I might quickly take a peek at what critics thought of it, only to find out that, man, they thought it was really mid. But I mean, shit, that's not how I remember it. So without any further ado, let's start up a save file. Hey everyone, due to Disney's unquenchable thirst to financially ruin anyone who so much as thinks about their IPs online, I unfortunately can't use any of this game's music or else they'll take everything that I own. Disney, I'd say go to hell, but you already have a theme park there. The galaxy is on the brink of total darkness. The evil Galactic Empire has overthrown the Old Republic and now holds countless worlds in the grip of fear. The Jedi Knights have been all but destroyed. Only a handful have escaped Imperial forces, disappearing into hiding across the galaxy. Jeez, can we speed things up a little? Who reads this slow? The Emperor's spies have located a lone Jedi Knight on the Wookiee homeland of Kashyyyk. The Sith Lord, Darth Vader, has been sent to destroy him. Oh god, is that it? Thank god. I mean, seriously, who needs it to be that slow? Alright, now we crossfade to the main character. No, I guess we're gonna wait for the text to go super far away. Okay. Now finally into the gameplay, I get to rant about how much I fucking hate modern PC gaming. So let me just run you through the cancer it is to play this game today. So first off, this game's Steam port is atrocious. It's riddled with bugs and it's capped at 30 FPS. It sucks. You could just emulate the game, but guess what? That version also is locked at 30 FPS. And the only way to get 60 is to mod the Steam version. But if you do that, you're stuck with all of the bugs. And if you want the 60 FPS like I did for this footage, you're just gonna have to put up with them. So that's what I'm doing. The game, for whatever reason, bugs out with the audio frequently. In my footage, the intro you just watched was actually attempt 4 of getting the sound to output properly. And further into the game, it will break again for no reason. The Force Unleashed natively caps at 1080p, and trying to get it to run in 4K can just outright break it. It is a nightmare. A real-life fucking nightmare. And I gotta say, it's really upsetting knowing that it's been sitting like this for almost 2 decades now. The more specific bugs we'll talk about later, but just understand that I suffered when setting this up. You son of a bitch. To finally talk about the game itself, The Force Unleashed is a hack and slash game focused on making you feel like a god, especially here while you play as Vader. Much like games of the genre, this game focuses on combo attacks that get stronger as the game progresses. Hitting the attack button over and over is a viable strategy that gives damage, but getting creative with different inputs and combos is where the game's skill expression comes in, and it makes you feel unbelievably powerful. Where The Force Unleashed stands out is its force mechanics, something the game revolves around. You have 3 dedicated force buttons, one for a force push that allows you to stagger some enemies and send others flying across the map. Later you get force lightning for some brain dead damage, and a force lift button that lets you pick up bombs, rocks, or even other people and fling them across the map. If there was only one thing you could praise the game on, it would be the sheer creativity you can have in battle with this. These aren't even my favorite type of games, but this is fun. And you know, something that is abundantly clear is that unlike, certain other Star Wars media, looking at you, Disney, it's clear that the people who made this really do love the IP. The attention to detail in this game is pretty sick. Darth Vader here in his opening level can't run at all, just like the films. Now the next thing is that the music to me felt kinda off. Now, I'm not entirely sure how much of this I can actually show you due to Disney being a giant collection of dick bags, but I'm gonna do my best here. The intro here has the iconic Imperial March theme, a perfectly fitting track, except for whatever reason, something here happened to the music, and I can't figure out why. This is like comically compressed for no reason. To illustrate this, I've taken the original version of the song and put it into some software to compare. And what the fuck were they thinking with this? Just look at how flat and overcompressed this file is. This is all lost dynamics up here. For reference, here's what my audio would sound like if I compressed it as much as this music is. What were they thinking? This is the type of stuff that makes me very nervous when I start a game. This had to be listened back to, signed off on, sent to a quality assurance team. Someone had to look at this and say it was good. Who? Who is this person? And quite frankly, it only gets worse as the game goes on. For the time being, the game's intro ends with you finding a Jedi hiding out on Kashyyyk, leading to the game's first boss fight. Most of the fights in this game can be identified by the fact that the camera, for whatever reason, gets put somewhere and becomes a pseudo-fixed cam for the duration of the fight. I assume this was done due to the fact that if it were a free cam, it might be somewhat easy to be hit by things that are out of your line of sight, but this has the notable drawback of making it way harder to tell what the fuck is going on. And also, when I'm playing through a boss fight, maybe watching it from 3 zip codes away is, maybe a bit less immersive. After lowering a boss's HP enough, you'll see the hallmark of this genre of games pop up on your screen. Quick time events. I know these were iconic in some games, but this is a bad example. I mean, let's just look at this cutscene here. Where is the weight or sound behind anything happening? Like, let's take a look at God of War's QuickTime events. Listen to the incredible sound effects placed on every correct button input, and the weight and strength behind every motion that happens. As a general rule, I think QuickTime events kinda suck, but these are especially bad. But alas, the cutscene that follows is the final piece of setup the plot has.
Sense someone far more powerful nearby. Where is your master?
The dark side has clouded your mind. You killed my master years ago.
Then now you will share his fate. A son?
Run! Lord Vader.
Come with me. More will be here soon.
Identifying the kid was a prodigy, Vader killed his men to keep the child a secret from the Empire and train him from the ground up. A crossfade reveals that years later, the kid still has the same big-ass forehead and is now a Sith assassin for Darth Vader.
Now your hatred has become your strength. At last, the dark side is your ally. Rise, my apprentice.
What is your will, my master?
Your training is nearly complete. It is time to face your first true test.
Your spies have located a Jedi?
Yes, Master Ram Kota. He is attacking a critical Imperial shipyard. Destroy him and bring me his lightsaber.
So, little fun fact here. During my entire recording of this game, the cutscenes are way louder than the rest of the game, and they're all clipping, and it is so cursed.
Yes, Master Ram Kota. He is attacking a critical Imperial shipyard.
So, quick context, Phil. This is Galen Merrick, aka Starkiller, the game's main protagonist. He's Vader's hidden apprentice, and he's voiced by the legend Sam Witwer in his first major role in Star Wars. Starkiller's named after the original scrap name for Luke Skywalker, who was supposed to be Luke Starkiller, but this was changed only a few weeks before filming. Starkiller's entire life has been training with Vader to become a Sith strong enough to kill Palpatine. And important note, Starkiller has no recollection whatsoever that Vader killed his father. So if you're ever wondering like why he doesn't bring that up or tell anyone that or like, I don't know, betray him because of that, that's why. To get Starkiller up to his level, Vader trained him by having him routinely attacked by his training robot, Proxy.
Ah, Master! Another excellent duel!
Proxy, you did catch me by surprise. I haven't fought that training program in years. I thought you'd erased it.
I'd hoped that using an older training module would catch you off guard and allow me to finally kill you. I'm sorry I failed you again.
Well, I'm sure you'll keep trying. Yeah, but do me a favor. Don't ambush me anytime.
Okay, dude, I'm calling bullshit on that. Look at how far away this woman is. They're going for like the Hallmark movie-ass love at first sight scene, but like there is no way he can clearly see her from that distance. All he would see is like a vague blur, like wow, she's beautiful. Now what's clear to me is that something went very wrong during the making of this game's cutscenes. According to some behind the scenes interviews, the game used mocap for the faces, and just the faces. This is pretty weird for a game like this, and it shows through at points. The actors were recorded walking and turning for reference to animate later, but it is painfully obvious that this was done by hand. Like, look at Juno here. Who the hell walks like that? Like, seriously, who in the hell's walking like this? I mean, what kind of moron is... You know, it is a little aerodynamic, you know, I'm kind of coming around to it.
Proxy. Yes, why are we whispering? Shh, who's that? Ah, yes. Your new pilot has finally arrived, Master. Accessing Imperial records.
Captain Juno Eclipse, born on Corilag, where she became the youngest student ever accepted into the Imperial Academy. Decorated combat pilot with over 100 combat missions, and commanding officer during the bombing of Kalos. Hand-picked by Lord Vader to lead his Black 5 squadron, but later reassigned to a top-secret mission. Is there a psychological profile in there too?
Actually, yes. But it's restricted. Oh, Master, I can tell you she's going to be impossible to reprogram.
Do you know why you're here?
Yes. My orders are clear. I'm to keep your ship running and fly you wherever your missions require.
Did Vader tell you that he killed our last pilot?
No. But I can only assume that he gave Lord Vader good reason to do so. I will not.
Well, let's hope so. I'm sick of training new pilots. What have you done to my ship?
I've taken the liberty of upgrading the Rogue Shadow sensor array. Now you'll be able to spy on any suspect ships within the entire system. You are one of Vader's spies.
You don't need to know anything about my missions except where I'm going. Now I need to jump to Nar Shaddaa. Can you handle that?
Of course.
After the cutscene, the game awkwardly throws you into a little tutorial to make sure you understand the Force mechanics. There's no real explanation as to why you're here, and it's not even voiced. It just kinda happens. But this is an excellent opportunity to bring up some of this game's bugs. So sometimes you can pick up objects off the ground to throw at people. Cool, right? Very Star Wars. But notice how every time I pick up the object, I just stare straight into the sky? Yeah, that's not me. On PC, when you use the Force to lift any object, the game has a constant up input that you can't do anything about. This is obnoxious, but pretty harmless for like 90% of the game. But at other parts, it makes it physically impossible to manipulate an object the game wants you to. Believe me when I say that this is infuriating. So finally getting into the meat of the game, your first level takes place on the ship of Jedi Knight Rom Koda. If you've ever wanted to play a game set in a Star Wars ship, this will fulfill your very specific fantasy. But me going through this, I was having such odd feelings. Like this is not how I remember the game looking or feeling. It's something about it is off. But you know, then again, it has been a decade. The game leaves you to explore the ship, murder everyone in sight, and learn some of the system, as it has almost no tutorial whatsoever. Now, if you're familiar with other hack and slash titles, this is gonna feel a little weird for you. This game has no real emphasis on combos. Some enemies can be popped into the air, but usually they'll die well before that happens, at least on the standard difficulty. So if you're expecting intricate, cool combos and a meter or something, you won't find that here. Later in the game, this becomes a bit more relevant, but for the time being, let's talk exploration. The Force Unleashed is like one of the most linear games I have ever played. Like seriously, it's just bordering on like Crash Bandicoot level design. It's just corridors. The extent of the exploration in this game is with a few hidden holocrons that unlock new customization and skill points. The other red ones you'll see around the map just give you some temporary bonuses. And that's the entirety of the exploration covered. To expand on the customization though, there's a ton of different skins you can equip, and even lightsaber color crystals you can swap out. There's even a few skins of the legacy Star Wars characters, so if you wanted to play as Qui-Gon or whoever your favorite character was, you could. But again, I swear to God, this is not how it looked when I was a kid. I remember there was like a ship or some kind of like unique UI that you could look around in. I swear to God I remember this. Maybe that was in 2? Maybe that's what I'm remembering. The end of the first level wraps up with a fight against General Koda, who repeatedly calls you
Boy. It's
a pretty similar fight to the one that you just had, and it's here that you'll begin to grasp this game's limitations with boss fights. Every single Force user in this entire game generates some kind of force field that deflects the Force, lightsaber attacks, and any other object around. Every single one of them has it, and without fail, every time they use it, it's either to throw something at you or use the Force. By the end of this game, you will be so fed up with this, it's a joke. But in terms of difficulty, this is a pretty easy fight.
Vader thinks he's turned you, but I can sense your future. And Vader won't always be your master. I sense only me.
Master Kota is dead.
Yes.
His lightsaber.
Did I ever tell you about Ahsoka Tano?
Now into level 2, the game takes us to the planet of Raxus Prime, an Imperial shipyard. But this is wrong. I swear to God, the second level of this game was a temple. I remember this, I swear to God. I had to go back and watch some footage of this game because it turns out I'm not crazy at all. There's 2 versions of The Force Unleashed. The next-gen PS3 and 360 version and the older PS2, Xbox, and PSP generation. This game and this game are not the same. I played through this entire thing in some kind of gaslit hysteria, only to find out after that I played the wrong damn version. And let me tell you, the next-gen version of this game is rough around the edges. So now I'm stuck in an awkward spot for this video. Do I make an entire video on this version of the game, or do I start from scratch, scrap all of my footage, and make a video on the PS2 version? Instead of doing either of those, today we're gonna be talking about both, and we're gonna go through this in some weird, disjointed way. So let's just cross-compare what we've played up to this point here on the PS2. So the game opens in pretty much the same way, except the raid on Kashyyyk takes place at night. Now, the most astute observers watching might notice that this version of the game, by comparison, kinda looks like Roblox. The console generation gap here is very evident. However, there's still some notable improvements to the presentation. The camera is way closer to the character model, the horrific bloom is gone entirely, not to mention there's a lot of mechanics that are in this version but not in the next gen edition. Hitting R2 switches the camera to a tight over-the-shoulder perspective that locks onto enemies. The PS3 version had something similar, but it only worked by holding the button down indefinitely. The next thing that occurred to me is that the cutscenes in this game seem to have completely different events and voice lines. And then, just to put the little extra cherry on top, how about entire cutscenes that are only present in this game?
Where is the Jedi?
Ah!
Tell me.
Why? I'm dead anyway. Ah! Okay, please just stop.
Then talk.
Master, go to control room.
Between levels, you can return to your ship, the Rogue Shadow. The ship is an entire menu hub. You have access to customization, skill upgrades, you can talk to the characters to reinforce that they're your companions, and you can plan your destination with a galaxy map. This is one of the things I remember the most vividly about this game, and in the next gen version, it's just gone. Customization is in the pause menu, same with sabers. There's no hilts to customize, there's no more map, you just automatically go from level to level. How in the hell does the version of this game on the stronger console not have this? I am perplexed at the sheer number of differences between these two versions of the same game that released the same day. But after a long trip down the rabbit hole, I can confidently say this is one of the most fascinating stories in the history of gaming. All the way back at the genesis of this game, LucasArts had a vision for an untitled Star Wars project. They wanted the game to be cutting edge with the upcoming release of the PS3, and even George Lucas himself insisted on an engine built from the ground up to make the game a visual marvel. However, console transition periods are strange, and LucasArts understood full well that they'd lose a ton of money by not having any PS2 release for this game. So, as they went off to make all this new tech, they outsourced the PS2, Wii, and PSP releases to an Australian company known as Chrome. Chrome was sent an identical script and concept art for the game, and they were tasked with adapting it into a pre-existing engine, as the new one could only run on the next-gen consoles. This led to 2 dev teams across the entire world working on the same source material without any real collaboration. That explains a lot. Tons of last-minute story revisions were made to the PS3 release, but Chrome was just stuck with the original script, and they ended up writing their own additional levels and kept some of the story beats that LucasArts cut. But the new levels they added were so substantial that LucasArts ended up adapting them and selling them back to the players as paid DLC. And this is free in the other game. And I'm sure the natural question that some of you are asking is, well, what version of the game should I be playing? Well, unfortunately, that's sort of a tricky decision to make. For the people out there who didn't grow up with the PS2 generation, I mean, these graphics probably look like Play-Doh to you. I mean, this is just not a good-looking game by any stretch, really. But it is literally the only way to enjoy the story and care about any of the characters. More on that later. For now, let's check up on Starkiller.
Master Kota is dead.
Yes.
His lightsaber. You lack focus. You're easily distracted. Had that been your own saber, you would be dead by now. Go to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Your training is far from complete, my apprentice.
The Jedi Temple on Coruscant is the cut content I was talking about earlier. This is the only level in the entire game that you get to explore multiple times. It's a benchmark for your power as a player, and it's one of the few locations that I even remembered from when I was a kid. This, of course, was made as an addition to the story, so nothing plot relevant can really happen here. So instead, they decide to flesh out some of the characters. The exploration in this version is more or less the same as its counterpart. There's no red holocrons anymore, but in exchange, there's way more yellow ones hidden everywhere, even hidden in pillars and other things you can destroy. The level ends with a fight against Darth Desolus. Again, due to the fact that they can't change too much of the story, this isn't anything special. So I'll take this time to talk about the differences in the boss fights between the two versions. In the next-gen version of the game, every single character, without fail, is either a Force user or too big to use the Force on. The result of this is that half the boss fights ignore one of the coolest mechanics. Now let's look at the last-gen edition. Force users make up most boss fights, sure, but not all of them. The Force can sometimes still work on Force users, but most of the time they'll block it. This means though that during a fight you can actually get some cool moments where you pick someone up and throw them into a wall or something, and that's fucking awesome. The next biggest difference is that this game actually has a somewhat functional block mechanic. The PS2 version plays almost closer to something like Sekiro, where there's a rhythm to the duels. Now to you watching, it might sound like I'm trying to make the point that the PS2 version is just definitively better, but that's not what I'm trying to say. My point is that the two editions of this game are polar opposites, because truth be told, there are some stuff that the PS3 version outright handles better. It's not one-sided. What the PS2 version lacks, the PS3 has, and vice versa. It's almost like they maybe could have made a perfect game by just working together. No, that's stupid. After taking down Darth Dingus, or whatever the hell his name was, the two games' timelines finally remerge as we head to our next destination, Raxus Prime. Raxus Prime is an Imperial junkyard, and could be generally described as a shithole. It's covered in scrap metal and taken over by a hostile group of Rhodians. It's not a particularly interesting level, but you're hunting yet another Jedi. Now let's check back in with the PS2 edition and, wow. This is just hilariously different. And there's even cutscenes of Starkiller talking to the Scrappers and their leader. Trying to decipher what happened to this game is such a challenge. Was this a part of the original script that got cut? Or was this an addition that Chrome Studios wrote themselves to make people understand the characters more? Was this skilled storytelling from LucasArts, who cut the content from the game due to whatever circumstances? Or was this a fantastic rewrite by Chrome Studios? It's hard to say. What isn't hard to say is that the next-gen copy by far has the smoother flowing combat. For the uninitiated, hack and slash games typically throw a bunch of enemies your way, and part of the skill of those games is managing whatever horde is trying to kill you. Due to the PS2's slightly pushed in camera, managing the hordes can actually kinda suck sometimes, and thus on average the game spawns in far fewer of them. Next gen by comparison lets you see a lot more of what's going on, but more importantly, it just has better combat mechanics. The movement feels smoother, the frame rate's more consistent, it's a more technically sophisticated game. But checking up on the older version, we have two brand new exclusive boss fights that you would lose out on if you played on the PS3. This is a constant tug of war between which game is better. The feeling of the gameplay on next gen is better, but the PS2's camera is way nicer and well done. The cutscenes of the PS3 are way higher fidelity and pre-rendered, but for whatever reason, the audio in every single one is so much louder than the game that it blows out your eardrums. The PS2 version has pretty terrible graphics, but the PS3 edition has tons of visual bugs. Like here, where the floor is hit with so much bloom it actually looks like lava for a while. I'm sure you get what I'm driving at. There's no perfect way to play this game today. It's gonna be frustrating no matter how you try. About halfway through Raxus Prime, it becomes pretty clear how different the direction these two games are taking the level. So let's just start with the HD version. Starkiller walks into a lot of confrontations between the Rhodian Scrappers and some pieces of junk that appear to be conjured together by the Force. The Rhodians consist of two enemy types, a melee fighter and a minigun enemy. That's kinda it. And unfortunately, the same can be said for the junk enemies. There's really only two enemy types at most. Technically there's some Jawa guys, but they don't really do anything. Every once in a while, you'll have to fight a mini-boss called the Junk Titan. Now this is where things start to get a little out of hand. I know, like, the Force is powerful and everything, but this is some pretty crazy power to not have a Force user here in person. But believe it or not, most of the time you can actually just take the pacifist approach and run right by them. And after making your way through the remainder of the level, you meet the outcasted Jedi, Kazdan Paratus.
Kazdan Paratus at last.
Don't worry, Masters. I'll defend you from this Sith trash.
That is all you get for a boss who you've spent the past 20 minutes wondering about? Let's just roll it back and see how the old version does it. So to start, the junk monsters in this version, again, are so different it's insane. You don't get to see the Rhodians and junk monsters fighting nearly as often, and there's no more Jawas running around, but you do fight your first non-Force using person. Boss fights like these are why I love this version so much. Force users can of course get themselves out of your grasp, but the non-Force users don't have that luxury. If you pick one up, you can just kinda hang out with them. There's no consequences. The Junk Titan also appears here here, but as a one-off fight in a very different looking arena. Again, it looks nothing like it does in the PS3 version. Now I'm super confused. How in the hell do these things look so different across the two versions? How does this happen? Was the concept art that was sent to Chrome Studios just slightly different, or maybe not the final design that LucasArts settled on? The biggest twist is that here, Kazdan Paratus is straight up piloting the suit, whereas in the HD copy, he's like remotely puppeting the thing. This might seem like a minor difference, but it lends some insight into just how little information must have been shared between the two teams. If I had to come up with a theory, I'd guess that both teams were just sent kind of a verbal description of what this thing was supposed to be, something that read along the lines of giant junk monster that Kazdan Paratus controls. And then after months of completely separate development, you end up with such separate ideas of what that means. One that's closer to like a remote controlled monster, and one that's more of like a junk mech that he pilots. But you might notice something by watching my footage. You know, here in the PS3 version, somehow, I've turned into a great big giant pussy. This is because the boss fights in this game gave me a hernia. The HD version is riddled with tons and tons of never explained mechanics. For example, holding L2 here gives a block. This feels inconsistent, but even more inconsistent is that if you hit the block button right before an attack connects, it parries into a stagger. This is literally never explained once to you, and I ended up discovering it well after I beat the game. The second thing is, you can't parry some attacks, or at least it feels that way due to some very poor coding. The result of these unexplained mechanics is that the intuitive way to fight is to just run around like a coward and just use lightning to whittle them down. The PS2 version, by comparison, is so much more naturally engaging. I can block attacks and strike back when in close quarters, and I can still walk away and use the lightning and force abilities. This is infinitely better. To make sure this wasn't a giant skill issue, I ventured online to see how other players handled this. And as it turns out, even speedrunners fight this way. I decided to try and beat some of these boss fights on the hardest difficulty, and I pulled it off, but it becomes extremely unfun. The main pain point is that almost every boss in the game has a gimmick, an intentional weakness. Choosing to have fun and ignore the weakness is damn near suicide. Let's take Kazdan Paratus here. His main shtick is that he's weak to lightning, your new power during this level. The intentional way to beat him is to abuse his weakness to this, as I did my first time around. Now watch as I attempt to fight with lightsabers. See this extremely fast move he does as I go to swing? This is a reversal. If you've ever played a fighting game, you can just imagine this as a fucking DP. This is the game punishing you for not abusing the lightning. He's gonna pull this out of his ass anytime you hit the attack button. I've seen him do this after I perfectly dodge an attack of his and try to punish it. I've seen the game let him do this while he's lying on the ground. If you hit attack, you're borderline throwing, so the game wants you to play like this, running away like a little bitch and waiting for your force to recharge so you can zap him again. But even if you play optimally like this, you're likely to encounter yet another horrible bug this game has. Some attacks don't trigger for almost no reason whatsoever. When an enemy gets thrown to the ground, getting point blank is supposed to trigger this impale move. The issue is, there's like a 50% chance it just doesn't trigger, and instead you'll swing at nothing and get 0 damage. And again, this isn't just me. Even speedrunners have to deal with the same shit. Now all of this negativity might lead you to believe that I hate this game. You don't know the fucking half of it. This game's only getting started. Here again, the timeline of the two games split off, the old version yet again having some unique cutscenes.
My master, Kazdan Paratus, is dead.
Then your training is almost complete.
I am ready now.
No. You've defeated an old man and an outcast. There are more tests you must pass.
What tests?
Go to the Jedi Temple. Do not fail me.
Vader doesn't quite trust us to go and fight the Emperor yet. That makes sense. So he sends us back to the temple to go through another trial. Just like the last one, there's no real plot progression, but it does expand further into Juno being Starkiller's love interest. I wonder what the next gen Vader has to say.
She had the tightest body and the perkiest little breasts in the galaxy. Fine piece of jailbait from a more civilized age. Barely legal in most systems.
Maybe we stop listening to him. Now that the timelines have remerged, we go now to the alien jungle of Felucia to hunt Jedi Master Shaak Ti, a character that's canonically dead by this point. Felucia, believe it or not, is home planet of the Felucians, an indigenous species that has two types of warriors, one with swords and shields, and a rarer shaman that can buff up all its friends. Again, the two games visually differ pretty dramatically, the PS2 version going for this super surreal vibrant forest, and the PS3 version going for a more desaturated realism. This version of Shaak Ti has a Jedi apprentice named Maris Brood. who the game expects you to forget about entirely for most of this game. Every level in Force Unleashed has a few smaller enemy types, and at least one larger enemy to use as a mini-boss. Sometimes it's an ATST, sometimes it's those junk titans from earlier, but on this level, it's Bella Ramsey. However, it's time again for one of the worst boss fights I've seen in literally any game ever. Shock T. Again, the game intends you to absolutely spam the shit out of your newest technique, Force Repulsion. If you just spam it, it's relatively easy. If you don't, you're fucking insane. The arena that you fight Shakti in is a Sarlacc pit, and it's filled with these explosive landmines everywhere. Stepping on them absolutely fucks your shit up, but the enemies can trigger them too. The problem is, there's an unbelievable amount of these that you can be knocked into at any time, and sometimes, due to the camera being locked, they can be right off screen as you walk into one. This fight is fucking torture. But let's take a look at the PS2 version. Oh, look at the cool lightsaber action. How I block and counter. There's a sword dude. Oh, cool dude. Oh, I beat the boss, guys. But like I said though, if you want to be a cheap piece of shit, you can just spam the Force Repulsion and the fight basically wins itself. Not doing this though is signing yourself up for torture. Defeating Shaak Ti, a Jedi Master, convinced Vader that you're finally strong enough to help him kill the Emperor, leading to Starkiller heading to his flagship.
She constantly got captured by pirates and slavers almost every other day. It was ridiculous, like a constant porno. You have no idea. She was a good friend.
The Emperor's fleet has arrived.
You have lured the Emperor to us. When do we strike?
I did not summon him. His spies followed you here. What is thy bidding, my master?
You have forgotten your place, Lord Vader. By taking this boy as your apprentice, you have betrayed me. Now you will kill him, or I will destroy you both.
Master, we can defeat him together!
Do it now, Lord Vader. Strike him down and prove your loyalty to me.
Now, remember, in my original recording, this is clipping to hell and back, and I gotta say, it's way harder to take seriously. The game of course reveals the fake out moments later. Now what I will say here is that the old version does have a massive win over the PS3 edition. And well, I don't feel the need to explain this one, really. The Emperor is now convinced you're dead, but to team up with Vader to try and kill him again, you need to create a distraction for the Empire. So you go in search of its enemies, or in other words, a Jedi, Master Rom Koda, who survived his encounter with you. This takes us all the way back to the world of Nar Shaddaa, but this time you get to walk through the underbelly and explore its bars. If nothing else, this is just a really cool establishing section of the level. I've always loved Star Wars' gritty, ugly depiction of bars and crime dens. It's one of my favorite parts of the game. Starkiller wanders into a bar and brutally interrogates the bartender to give up Koda's location, leading to you eventually finding the old man, still recovering from his injuries and drinking away his sorrows. The PS3 version, on the other hand, just cuts to this scene. No establishing shot of the environment Koda's in, and how much it sucks. No reinforcement that Starkiller is in fact a Sith. Apparently none of that was important. In case it's not abundantly obvious to you, the game is clearly setting up for some conflict within Starkiller. Vader stabs you, sends you away. You go to find the exact Jedi Master who said Vader wouldn't always be your master, even naming himself. It's obvious that a redemption is what the game is kind of pushing you towards. The problem is, the player more likely than not will end up setting their saber crystal to a more traditional Jedi color like blue or green, and it can really feel like Starkiller is not that bad at all. The only thing that makes him a quote-unquote Sith is that he killed a couple of Jedi. In order to actually make the conflict in him somewhat visible, you need scenes of him being a sadistic maniac like anyone would expect of a Sith. Something the old-gen version has in spades, but the real, official LucasArts version, the people who made the movies, decided not to include. From here on, you need to escort Koda back to your ship while the Empire tries to kill you. Koda walks at about the speed of a city Fentliner, so in order to get him there a little faster, you can can actually just pick him up and throw him if you want. And once back to the Rogue Shadow, Coda can be seen for the rest of the game belligerently drunk on your ship between levels, but not on the next gen version because there's no ship menu for him to even be on. The PS2 version has its final original level in your third trip back to the Jedi Temple. This time, it's way harder. The Stormtroopers now have jetpack units, which make them a complete and total nuisance to deal with. The temple is more or less the same level you've played twice up to this point, eventually culminating with an entirely unique fight in the council room.
I will not allow you to corrupt him further.
I am guiding him toward his destiny.
And I'm saving him from yours. You don't need to fight me. You can still turn away from the dark side.
The dark side is all I have.
This is so interesting. Starkiller coming across the ghost of his own father and fighting against him, but also seeing that he and Vader at one point fought. This is a great boss fight in an iconic location, but the cutscene after reveals to Starkiller that this is his father, which again is really furthering the narrative that'll switch sides. He knows his dad was a Jedi and was probably killed by Vader. That's a pretty compelling revelation. Now let's check back in with the HD copy.
I never wanted this for you. I never wanted any of this for you.
I'm sorry, son.
Wait. Father, no!
Are we serious? What the fuck, LucasArts? They are getting outstoried by a third-party company writing fan fiction. This is embarrassing. The story beat is still there in both, but one version is just doing so much more with it. But in a surprise twist, the next-gen version of Kashyyyk is by far the best way to play it. The Wookiees have been captured by the Empire, and thus, around the level, you can find a few places they're being held in and free them. Now you have some Wookiee soldiers to fight at your side. Credit where credit's due. Going from killing Wookiees in level 1 to now fighting alongside them is solid contrast. This is good. The reason we're on Kashyyyk is to find some people who aren't the biggest fans of the Empire. This time finding someone who's Coda's contact in the Senate. That someone is Princess Leia. And Coda's contact in the Senate is her adoptive father, Bail Organa. You might start to piece the puzzle together here. Your goal is to find enemies of the Empire, and two of them happen to be the people in charge of the rebellion. If you can catch on to it, this is some awesome world building. Organa himself went missing when searching for Jedi Master Shaak Ti on Felucia, who, died from natural causes and everything. A dramatic wipe reveals that Bail Organa is now being held prisoner by Maris Brood, the apprentice who was in literally one cutscene earlier in the game. And I'm happy to report that, yet again, the next-gen version straight up outdoes its last-gen equivalent. Here, Bail is being held in the stomach of a sarlacc, an area the Empire would struggle to reach. However, to show Starkiller's change of heart, the now enslaved sarlacc actually seems to really upset him, and you go out of your way to free it. This is outright absent on the PS2 version. From here, the level turns into some shit you'd see in a Silent Hill game, where you navigate the insides of a literal animal. What I love about this too is how much effort went into actually mapping out how this creature works. Much like your intestines, this creature too has some villi. This is some freaky shit, but it really sells that you're in a living organism. You know, the PS3 version is really starting to look up. Let's check back in with the last gen copy. This time going through Felucia is honestly just like the last visit, except you're fighting both the Empire and the Felucians. It features Starkiller performing a Jedi mind trick, but that's really about it, leading to your showdown with Maris Brood. Now, Maris Brood starts off by sicking our pet Bella Ramsey on you. After the Bella Ramsey dies, you get a classic saber duel with Maris Brood, who uniquely has side grips on her lightsabers. It's a pretty normal boss fight for the game. There's a rhythm to it, and it only really deviates when Maris Brood calls in more Felucians. I wonder how my PS3 playthrough of it's going. This is yet another dog shit fight. Again, on a replay, it's not that bad once you know the cheese strategy, but again, on my first playthrough, I was fucking miserable. The answer to this fight is to just mindlessly mash the attack button, since she's pretty much stun locked whenever you do so. But again, if you actually try to have fun and dodge attacks and duel, the fight is painfully unfair. Now, you could say that I'm an idiot for trying to approach this in a way that's clearly not the intended vision of the developers, but immersion has to count for something with an IP like this. I'm playing this to have fun, not to beat the game as easily as possible, but the game almost forces you you get to pick one of these. Regardless, beating Maris causes her to see the error of her ways pretty quick.
Hey, you've won. The Senator's yours.
don't need to kill me now.
You are a slave to the dark side. I'd be doing the galaxy a favor.
It's not my fault. Shakti abandoned me here. This planet is evil. It corrupted me. But you can save me. Just let me get away from here. Just let me go. And I'll turn my back on the dark side.
And I'll suck your dick. Now this is where the game's narrative hits its full stride. Starkiller here clearly looks like a Jedi. He forgave and spared his opponent and had faith she wouldn't go any further into the dark side. He saves the very founder of the rebellion and gets him to safety, but then later still reports in full to Darth Vader. Is Starkiller fully loyal to Vader, or is he going to finally break free of his grasp on his life? This is quality writing. To keep on the repeated locations train, the game's next level takes us back to Raxus Prime, where yet again, the two versions diverge pretty heavily. The PS2 version takes you through an Imperial factory, or a power plant, I'm not entirely sure. But there's tons of stormtroopers, an ATST, molten lava, and a lot of power equipment. It feels completely different from your first visit to Raxus Prime. This section ends with a fight against the Shadow Guard, an Inquisitor backed up with a team of invisible stormtroopers. It's an interesting fight. Here on the HD version, it just feels more like a rehash of the first time around, except there's more Empire troops. The same shtick they've done for a couple levels now. Now this might be a bit of a self-report, but this is the first level of the game that I started getting completely bodied at. However, I take no responsibility for this. Throughout the game, there have been a few projectile-focused enemies. These are usually fine and perfectly manageable, because either they're limited by range, or just few and far between. But at about the halfway point through this game, an enemy in a power suit begins to show up. Again, these are usually fine to deal with, but they're powerful, they hit like a truck, and more importantly, at a range, they can shoot a pretty powerful tracking projectile. You remember how at the beginning of this video I said that this game has some seriously weird bugs? Well, it's finally time to bring up the worst of all. This game suffers from a sound bug, and not just muddiness or clipping from earlier, some of the sounds just don't fucking play at all. One of those sounds is the sound of the power loader shot. Something that takes like a third of your HP. It can hit you with no warning, no indicator that an enemy is even present or targeting you. This is infuriating. At later fights in the game, some enemies spawn in halfway through a fight and you won't get any audio on that. You'll just get clipped for half of your HP bar. Next, let's look at the fact that cutscenes in this game freeze Starkiller. As you can see, I am on screen here, but I cannot move. Note how the enemies are in fact moving and aiming at me. You can eat so much unfair damage in this game, it's comical. And even better, this game is so poorly coded, it has like a 60% chance of just crashing anytime you die. Let's just listen in to me during this. Unfucking believable. Some game devs just need to be fucking euthanized. God damn. This is the precise moment that I began to hate this game. And I just gotta tell you, I about had a stroke when I saw this next section for the first time. So you remember Proxy, the robot who's been your friend through the entire game, who was programmed to try and kill you as a part of your training, which it only did one time at the very beginning? Well, this game hits a goddamn brain tumor crescendo when he decides it's now the perfect time to try and kill you, leading to, it's better if you just see.
Shut down, Proxy. There's no one inside you that I haven't already defeated.
Give me some credit, Master. I have one module you've never seen. An enemy I've studied for years.
Proxy has a Darth Maul training program. Where did he get a double-sided lightsaber? And why can he use the Force? I'm not sure that's computing very well. Well, actually, according to the novels, he's using retraction cannons to simulate it. Yeah, fucking bullshit. This just reads as a bunch of fucking nerds just sitting around a writer's room thinking like, yo, dude, what if like Starkiller could fight Maul, bro? Who would win? And then doing some crazy fucking mental gymnastics in order to make it possible. By the way, this is completely absent in the PS2 version. Even they thought this shit was lame. Like there's a point where fan service is really cool, and then there's a point where it comes off as really lame, and this is the latter. And to somehow make it worse, this next section of the game is the only part where I had to cheat. So, in order to Aura Farman also cement himself as a top 5 inverse character, Starkiller straight up fucking yoinks a Star Destroyer out of the sky. This is dumb, but you know what, it's cool fun, you know, I'm down for this. You remember that stupid goddamn bug I mentioned earlier, where, you know, like, when you'd lift something, there'd be like a constant up input? Yeah, that happens here. This might be one of the most egregiously coded things I've ever seen in any game ever. So here's how this works. In the center of the screen, the two thumbstick indicators are trying to tell you what direction to pull the ship in order to get it into position to pull it down. Why you can't just like pull it down anyway? I don't know. We're working with dumbass logic here. Nothing makes sense. Here's the fun part here. These indicators, these are lying. When you get these right, or at least close to right, the red hue here turns green. And yet, it still tells me to move the ship? Or better yet, here I have both prompts saying there's no direction I need to adjust. And yet, I can't pull it. What do you want from me? What does this mean? You know, if you can't open your fucking third eye and see into the future here and figure out exactly the input it wants you to, to give it, you're just boned. And if you can't figure it out within 20 seconds, the game sends exactly 7 TIE fighters out to kill you. These force you to get off of pulling the ship and kill them immediately. Meanwhile, the ship fully fucking resets and you start all over. And wait, there's more. When you do get it perfectly aligned, due to the fucking physics bug I mentioned earlier, you barely at all pull it down. This is a circus, and I'm the clown. I refuse to do this, and instead I found a save file to skip this shit. What happens after this? I have no idea. So let's just go to the PS2 version. Remember when I said that the PS2 edition was done with completely unique levels? I lied. This raises the total now up to 4 entirely unique levels that you could never play on next gen. This time it takes us to the iconic Cloud City, which is currently overrun with Mandalorian criminals. Again, how is this not on the stronger console? The level design here actually gives you some options that the rest of the game never really does. You can fight normally, or you can be funny and find the nearest ledge. Yeah, I chose the latter every single time. Out of absolutely nowhere, it features an awesome boss fight against a Gungan, which I think has never ever happened before or after this. In Chrome Studios, they just did that. And it also finishes off with a boss fight against a straight up Mandalorian. But of course, since he doesn't have the Force, you can just keep picking him up over and over again. This shit is hilarious. And to polish it off, it shows Starkiller finding yet another member of the Senate to rebel against the Empire. I don't even know what to say anymore. At this point, if you didn't play the PS2 or Wii edition of this game, you actually didn't experience it. These are different games fundamentally. Yet again, the timelines remerge as Starkiller heads to Corellia to formally begin the Rebel Alliance.
We agree that the time for diplomacy and politics is past. It is now time for action. If you are willing to lead us, then we'll join your alliance.
As will I.
Thought you were passed out in the cargo hold.
I finally came to.
It is settled then. My wealth will fund the rebellion while Garm provides our fleet and Mon Mothma our soldiers. And with you leading us, we have the power of the Force on our side. Therefore, let this be an official declaration of rebellion. Today, we all vow to change the galaxy. And one day, the galaxy will indeed be free.
Take them alive. The Emperor wants to execute them personally. You have done well, my apprentice.
You agreed to stay away!
I lied, as I have from the very beginning.
You never planned to destroy the Emperor.
Not with you, no.
Without me, you'll never be free.
Master!
This is probably my favorite cutscene in the entire game. Darth Vader's "I lied" is like probably the funniest thing he's ever said, and anytime I ever say I lied to somebody, in my head this clip plays. But unfortunately here, the plotline begins to get muddy. Vader kept Starkiller alive to send him out and find all of the Empire's enemies and round them up. Then he claims that he never intended to overthrow the Emperor with him. This is just a bizarre idea to me. He spends the better part of a decade training him, he's proven himself to easily be stronger than even a Jedi Master, and there's no real explanation for why he betrays you here other than, well, if we go too far with this, the movies won't make sense. And if that's the only thread keeping your story together, it's not a good sign. And to keep with that theme, with the series' vital plot relevant characters now captured, Starkiller decides to go on one last mission to rescue them from the newly constructed Death Star. Being that this is the game's final level and I won't get any more chances to upgrade stuff, I decided to run past as many enemies as the game would let me. The Death Star as a level is centered around a giant laser, which you definitely don't want to be near. Being the game's finale, you'd think they'd really test your skills of everything you've seen up to this point, but not really. It's a pretty normal level, at least here on the last gen. Then we go over to the next gen version and damn, this is way more intricate. There's even an entirely unique puzzle. All of this is outweighed, of course, by the fact that there are still silent enemies with giant fucking cannons everywhere, but it's something the next gen version does better. So far in this video, I've been pretty strongly of the opinion that the last gen version of the game had the better story elements, while the next gen version had the better feeling combat outside of the bosses. But here, in a huge, ginormous plot twist, it managed to get worse. Darth Vader's boss fight here at the end of the game might genuinely be the worst boss fight of all time. There are a few times in this game where I'm just so perplexed at how the hell anyone approved a section, or a bug slipped through the cracks. But this is one of those times where I feel like the devs are personally going out of their way to torture me. Regardless, Starkiller defeats Vader, leading to a pretty sick sequence.
Kill him, he was weak. Broken. Kill him and you can take your rightful place at my side.
No!
Help him!
Here, you can choose whether to fight Sidious and rescue Coda, or kill Vader. This lets you choose between the game's good and bad endings. Ironically, the Sidious fight is a bit of a letdown. Sidious, despite being shown as a very competent saber duelist, relies solely on his force attacks. The literal worst part of every fight so far is now the entire fight. Yeah, this sucks. And I gotta say, the following cutscene may just be the dumbest part of the entire game.
You were destined to destroy me. Do it. Give in to your hatred.
He's beaten. Let it go.
It's a trick. He's stronger than you know, and he deserves to die for what he's done to me.
Maybe so. But if you strike him down in anger, you'll be right back where you began.
What does that even mean? Is Coda like a Sith in disguise or something? Why the fuck would you not want to kill Sidious here? Explain this to me. The man who killed the entire Jedi Order, enslaved the entire galaxy, and you know, I don't know if you noticed this, Mr. Coda, or not, but you know, if you let him live, he's going to use the, I don't know, planet-destroying, moon-sized spaceship to continue to oppress the entire galaxy. Words cannot describe to you how much I hate this trope of like, oh, but if I kill the villain, I'll be just as bad as the villain. I'll be just like him. I can't kill him. It is so monumentally fucking stupid. Sidious has killed and ruined the lives of billions of people, and will continue to do so. Killing him is a good thing. Good thing. And to throw the cherry on top, Starkiller here dies because of this bullshit. Again, this reads as a well, this is cool and all, but, well, we still need the movies to happen, so random bullshit go. The other ending you can get here is the bad ending, where you go after Vader to finish the job. And, well, I bet you can fully grasp how I feel about this fight. The fact that Vader has an auto parry that counters 90% of your attacks, even when he misses an attack, is just mind-blowing. Like, does the game not actually want me to play it? Because that's what this says to me. I played this on the hardest difficulty, and the only way I could find to beat it was to abuse a setup I discovered, where I could reliably get Vader into the air and score some big damage. As I said though, this leads to the dark ending.
Excellent. Lord Vader was a broken shadow of his former self. I knew that one day you would replace him. You'll have just one final test. Destroy your ties to the Jedi, and at last you will be a Sith Lord. You have betrayed your master and your allies both. I knew that you would betray me as well. And now, you have doomed yourself and your friends. You had such promise. You could have been my successor, my equal.
Starkiller survived his injuries and has been transformed into Darth Daft Punk, waking up in a sequence mirroring Vader's. Obviously, this ending isn't canon. Well, I guess technically the entire game isn't canon, but within the realm of the sequel, it follows the good ending. And that is the game. Technically, there's a few other small mini-campaigns on the side, but really they're just kind of more of the same, except they have a unique boss fight, which, as I've gone into painstaking detail, fucking blow ass. Now, there are a few cool features that each version seem to have. Like the Wii version has a custom PvP mode, which is actually a ton of fun. I went into this nostalgic, but after 2 separate playthroughs on 2 different versions, I am very much done. The PS2 version is great, it's the game I remembered, go play that one. The next gen version is a crime against humanity, and I would prefer to never look at it again. But a perfect game lies somewhere between these 2 versions, and that genuinely upsets me in a way that I am way too tired to explain. But here's what I want to end with. There are few games out there that would benefit from a remake quite as much as this. Right now, there's no perfect way to play this. If I play the next gen version, I get way better graphics and smoother feeling combos, which can be what a lot of players prefer. But in doing so, you miss out on tons of story meat, some great boss fights, and the game's best levels. If a remake could combine the 2 versions and take the best from each, this would be like the definitive Star Wars game. But instead of that, all of the best pieces are scattered around, forcing you to pick between a visually superior option or better story. Maybe sometime in the future we'll cover the sequel to this game, but apparently it's a little rough. Going from script to release in a stunning 9-month development cycle. For now though, that's gonna do it. As per usual, any and all support would be amazing, but no one can force ya, and I will see you all in the next one.